Now, when I was at school, I used to have a friend called Cameron. And Cameron was a naughty boy. He was always getting into trouble. And there's one incident that I remember particularly well. And it was during a history class with Mrs. G, not her real name. And for some reason, don't remember why, Mrs. G had left the room and left us alone. And 2 minutes of this was enough for Cameron to decide that he should stand up, walk over to Mrs. G's desk, open one of her drawers, take out her handbag, put it on her desk, open it, and start to go through her stuff. Start to rummage through her stuff. It's a good verb, that, isn't it? To rummage. So there's Cameron rummaging through Mrs. G's handbag. Guess what happens? Mrs. G walks into the room, catches Cameron red-handed, rummaging through her stuff. And she was furious. I don't think I've ever seen a teacher as angry as that. She was absolutely furious, and she interrogated Cameron. She wanted to know why he decided to do this. And she kept saying, "Why did you do that? Do you think it's acceptable to go through a person's private possessions? Do you? Do you think it's acceptable?" And Cameron was, "So why did you do it? Why did you do it?" And she really wanted to know. She really wanted a reason. And poor Cameron had no idea. He had no idea. And we didn't care. For as far as we were concerned, it was just some stupid Cameron shit. But 30 years later, I think that maybe I know why Cameron did that. At least I've got a theory. You see, Mrs. G, she was a pretty good subject teacher. She taught history pretty well. But what she valued, it seems, more than anything, was her privacy. And she did everything she could not to let us know who she was. She did not want us to know anything about her life. And I think, well, this is my theory, that this is what drove Cameron to do what he did. Total curiosity. On that day, Cameron decided to rummage through her bag just to get clues, to look for anything that would show him who this human being was. I don't know, a bus ticket? Anything. That's my theory anyway. You see, one thing that fascinates human beings is other human beings. And whether you realize this or not, your students have a mild fascination in you. They want to know who you are. And this is an important thing to remember. Now, there's a problem here often because, for teachers like Mrs. G, and this is something I've spoken to many teachers about before, we have professional relationships to maintain, and we need to maintain some sort of privacy, But there's another problem, and this is especially if you're a language teacher, and I know many of you watching this video are, because language teachers, we expect our students to share personal information. We expect them to talk about their opinions, their lives, their likes, their dislikes, the things that they did at the weekend. And so if we expect that from our students, but we are not prepared to give anything back about ourselves, there's a bit of a kind of, well, it's a bit unfair, isn't it? A bit of an imbalance. And I think maybe we can actually lead by example and start to just share little stories with our students about ourselves. Now, by personal information, I'm not talking about things like your politics, where you live, your address. Don't share that with your students. Medical conditions, your sexual orientation. I'm not talking about this. I'm just talking about those little stories, personal stories that are unremarkable yet meaningful. Something that happened to you on the way to work. Stories about your cat, stories about your dog, your current favorite Netflix series, stories about your friends and family members, assuming, of course, that they are not teachers working in your school. It's as simple as that. Personal stories like this can go a long way. Now, I say all this with, what's the word I'm looking for? A disclaimer. Sorry about the pause there. A disclaimer, because I remember another teacher that we used to have, and his name, we're going to call him Mr. P. Mr. G and Mr. P. Neither of these are their real names, I'm sure you understand. Now, Mr. P used to share personal stories with us on a daily basis, and it never worked. And the reason was quite simple. Mr. P was trying to share stories to impress us, to show off, to kind of demonstrate how cool he was. And we never ever warmed to him. And it's a shame because he was probably not a bad teacher. But this really kind of illustrates a possible problem. Because what storytelling like this is all about is connections. Making connections with your students and allowing connections to be made within the group. In other words, it's all about fostering community. And Mr. P did not do that, or at least if he fostered community, it was a type of community where it was us against him. It really didn't work. It's not the kind of community that he was intending. So, share a short story, a personal story about yourself, not too personal. Don't try to impress. All heroes have their flaws, because at the end of the day, you don't want a student like Cameron going through your pockets, going through your handbag. You have to show your students that you are human, and it's a valuable resource. You are a valuable resource. I wonder what Cameron's doing these days. I've got no idea. Haven't spoken to him, haven't heard to him. I wonder if he's still going through other people's handbags and pockets. If you're listening, Cameron, let us know what you're up to. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.